As everyone knows, the market is really hot right now. So if you're looking to buy your dream home or sell one, well, I recommend you reach out to my good friend and member of TFK, Molly McKinney, co-owner of Remax of Cherry Creek. Molly has been a realtor for well over a decade. She's a consistent top producer, and she prides herself on integrity over sales. If you know anything about Molly, you know she has a ton of energy. She's 100% professional. As an added bonus, Molly has a degree in interior design, which really comes in handy when you're buying and selling, if you know what I mean. Check out rmcherrycreek.com or contact Molly at 303-809-0134. Let me introduce, and I will not do you justice, so I want you to fill in the blanks, okay?
A lot of blanks.
I got paid 31 years to not speak, so this is a whole different world here for me.
Nobody knew Rocky spoke.
Yeah.
What a voice.
I know. So this is a big learning curve for me, but I appreciate you being here. This is my gym. This is our studio. At
Beautiful.
the
I
gym
love your
Thank
gym.
Thank you.
I was at a dojo on East Colfax for a number of years.
Yeah?
Wasn't anything close to this.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cockroaches were running in fear. Not from me, from the black belts.
Oh, good. Well, so Rich, the G-man Goins. We've been friends for, 30 years.
Oh,
30,
yeah, at least 30,
I mean,
35.
Yeah.
Because I met you when you first started being Rocky.
Yeah.
But I met you before that.
You did not meet me before that because I wasn't here before that.
Oh, I thought you were
Yeah. No,
a couple years in Denver before you got the Rocky gig.
No, I came here for the job.
Oh.
Right out of college, quit school.
Nice.
I got this job, and my dad was like, "Yeah, go, man."
Oh.
Yeah, he was a real stickler on education. I'm like, "Dad, I got this job. What do you should I take it or not?" He's like,
Pay me 10 times what I was going to make.
"Anywhere else."
Being an accountant.
Do you know I went to school for communications?
Oh, you did?
Yes. Oh, so glad this other gig worked out.
hit the jackpot.
I would have been terrible at it. But you've been a master at it, and if there was a Mount Rushmore of Denver, your face would be on this.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say.
That's how much you have impacted this community.
Oh, thanks.
And everybody knows
run.
you. Everybody knows G.
Thanks.
And Dave here. Dave is my business partner, one of my business partners. Introduce yourself, Dave. Introduce your place.
So live here in Memphis, Tennessee. Lived here all my life for the most part. I own Memphis Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. It's a martial arts gym, mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
We do all the typical mixed martial arts things here: Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, judo, boxing. We also have fitness kickboxing here, and then I have ownership in some fitness kickboxing gyms, such as Ken's here, and then a couple in Memphis, and some other ones around the country.
Oh, it's a good gig, man.
Yeah.
So I did some Muay Thai. That's how I kind of got into the ring announcing for the martial arts stuff. And so I did like 2 years. I was telling you that dojo out on East Colfax. It was about the size of where we're broadcasting from. It was literally one heavy bag and a ring that was about 8 by 8, so you couldn't get away from anybody when you had to jump in there and try and elevate your belt status. But so that's kind of how I got. I was doing some ring announcing for boxing and stuff, but that's how I got into the MMA announcing. Was a thing called Coors Super Fights. There was a lady named Karen Turner who was way ahead of her time. She just loved martial arts, and so she had mostly, it was karate, jiu-jitsu, and kind of Muay Thai combination events down at the Mammoth Event Center, which is now the Fillmore on Colfax. And she was doing those for a couple of years, so she knew I did some ring announcing for boxing. She saw one of my events, and she said, "Hey, would you do the Coors Super Fight?" So I did those for 2 years before I got the call to do the UFC. And it was just totally out of nowhere. Had never even heard of, nobody had.
Yeah.
Nobody even heard about like organized worldwide martial arts events. It was, you had boxing was the king. Nobody was into, people were into martial arts, but it wasn't this worldwide phenomenon. So that's kind of how I got involved.
Well, speaking of that, when I told, getting to know Dave, I learned that he was he all over the world with fighting and training, and his background is just phenomenal. But when I told him that I knew you, he was like, "Wait, what? Oh my gosh, I know everything about this guy." And I know the beginning. When I told him that I was at that
any of my
first fight,
ex-girlfriends? Hopefully not. Do I owe money?
I don't know.
Dave?
I don't know quite everything.
I don't think I have any ex-girlfriends in Memphis, but it's a possibility.
you never.
You never know. If they do call you, Dave, tell them I'm not around.
Gotcha. Don't know who you are.
Oh, no, he's living under a bridge somewhere.
Yeah, well, it's just been an amazing process getting to this point right here, because Dave, when he found out I was at that first fight,
yeah,
he was like, "Wait," and he threw out all the statistics and who was there and everything.
Right.
And then when I told him that you were coming on here, he's like, "Oh my gosh, I would love to talk to this guy," because Dave just geeked out on this so deeply. You were telling me that you used to get like pirated VHS tapes or something. Is that right?
Look, I was completely nuts about the sport of mixed. Well, back then it was no holds barred.
Right.
I mean, it was anything go. Mixed martial arts wasn't even a term back then.
Right.
But when I first saw the UFC, my first UFC that I ever saw, the first one I ever saw on pay-per-view was UFC 4, actually, where Hoist fought Severn.
Yeah.
In the finals. And
Right.
I think you were the ring announcer at that one.
I did the first 11 of them, and then Bruce Buffer got the gig. Bastard stole about a couple $100,000 out of my pocket, but hey, he's a good-looking guy. I have a face for radio, so they had to get somebody in there that was more presentable on camera.
You did a better job, though, in my opinion. That's my humble opinion.
Oh,
you did a better job.
Well, thank you. So you just saw the videos, like the old black and white videos, but you never saw a live event until you bought a pay-per-view?
Well, UFC 4 was the first live event that I saw on pay-per-view, right?
Right.
Buddy of mine invited me over. I won't go into all that, but I was just enthralled. The first time I saw it, I was like, this is unbelievable. Because I was a boxing fan. I loved boxing as a teenager,
Right.
and I thought the toughest man in the world was the heavyweight boxing champion. I had no idea this stuff even existed, right?
Right.
Turned my world upside down. So I just kind of got completely enamored with what was happening. And I remember the first UFC that came out at Blockbuster was maybe 3 or 4 months after I saw the UFC 4 live event on pay-per-view, and it was UFC 2 was the first VHS they came out with before
Right.
UFC 1 even came out. And then I would, of course, watch these ad nauseum. Like, I probably had so many Blockbuster late fees from not bringing these videotapes back. I just was into it, and I loved it. And then I started getting into Japanese MMA and getting a lot of these tapes from Japan and stuff like that. Anyway, long story short, I've always been really enamored with the old school MMA scene and like what was going on. And one thing I said to Ken when he said you were going to be on, I said, man, I've got so many questions. Maybe he has some insight on some of these things. I would just love to, I don't know, pick your brain a little bit about some of the old days in the UFC, because
Sure.
That was a very special time. That was a special time that'll never be replicated again. Never. Not just in mixed martial arts, but in sports, period. Right? I mean, this revolutionized fighting as we know it, and ring sports as we know it. So a really special time back then. And like I say, I was completely enamored. And
So we could talk about UFC 1, if that you guys want to kind of go into that, because it's a pretty amazing story.
Yeah.
I was working with a couple of guys, Dave, that, called Lewis and Floorwax. They were, like the morning show in Denver. Funny, always got great ratings. And I was a sports guy on their show for 20 years. But what happened was Barry Fay, who's the legendary concert promoter, kind of like along the lines of Bill Graham. Barry Fay was the first guy to kind of capitalize on Red Rocks, the amphitheater up there, and start having concerts up there. And he brought in Led Zeppelin, and he brought in the Beatles, and he brought in U2, and I mean all the bands when they were just kind of up and coming bands. He brought Zeppelin into Folsom Field up in Boulder, a bunch of Red Rock shows. So he called me and said, hey, he's buddies with Zane Breslov, Zane Bresloff was legendary guy who started World Wrestling, the World Wrestling Federation. All these guys were in Denver. Zane Bresloff was the mastermind behind the big giant stadium, wrestling, World Wrestling. And those two guys partnered up when they heard this guy, Art Davie, was in cahoots with Hoist Gracie's dad, Rory and Gracie. Rory and Gracie approached Art Davie, who was in New York, and said, I've got an idea to do this Ultimate Fighting Championship thing. We'll bring in a bunch of guys, fighters from around the world that are martial arts guys. Not mixed martial arts like Dave said, because nobody ever heard that term, but they were, we had this guy, we had this guy, we had this guy. But Barry Fay called me and said, hey, this guy, Art Davie, wants to hire Lewis and Floorwax. So I called him up representing Lewis and Floorwax. He wanted them to be the ring announcers because they wanted the morning show to talk about it. Hey, it's at McNichols Arena. It's something new. We want to sell tickets.
And their personalities would have just complemented this tremendously.
Kind of absolutely.
I mean, it was just a great fit.
The problem was they wanted like $2,000 each to do this. So when I called him back and said, hey, they want $4,000 between them, Art Davie said, no, I don't have that kind of budget. And he goes, do you know any ring announcers in Denver? And I go, yeah, me. And he goes,
as a matter of fact.
Yeah. How much would you do it for? And I said, I'll do it for $1,000. And he goes, you're hired. He goes, do you got any tape or anything? I said, no, man, I've done the core super fights. And so all of a sudden, I'm the ring announcer for the first UFC. Just
for $1,000.
Yeah, just sheer luck. Well, back then, $1,000 was like, hey, man, I can pay like 4 months of rent. I'm living in a shack over here in Lakewood. And, hey, I'm going to pay my rent for 4 months. This is great. So that's kind of how I got involved with the whole UFC 1. And I knew they had McNichols Arena secured because Barry Fay told me, and Zane Bresloff, where they were the marketing guys kind of behind the scenes in Denver. But, it was about, a month or two later is when all of a sudden the whole caravan came to town. And that's when I got introduced to Art Davie, Rory and Gracie. I can't remember Gracie's grandfather. He was there. And then, all the fighters came in, and I got, it was literally a week before that I got to meet all those guys. They're like, hey, you got to meet the fighters. You got to go down to the hotels, get some bios on them, get some stats on them, watch them work out, just take notes, and that's what we want you to do to introduce them. So I spent 3-4 hours down there for 2 or 3 days in a row just meeting the fighters. But it was all kind of on the QT. There wasn't any buzz yet,
Well, and in my opinion, when I first heard about this and when I was going to buy tickets, and actually I didn't buy tickets, I just got in there.
You're already working
yeah.
for Charlie Lyons.
Yeah, I was working. So that's true. So yeah, I just thought, oh my gosh, we're going to see some stuff that's, I don't know, not seen before. Is this legal? That was actually a question in my mind. Like, wow, we're going to see.
Well, it was a question in a lot of people's minds because the way it was set up, the reason they came to Denver, there's no boxing commission. So they didn't have to have any okay from any sanctioning body. They had to make sure they had the ringside doctors. They had to make sure they had guys sign their waivers and their release forms. But because there wasn't any boxing commission in the state of Colorado at the time, you could have martial arts like Karen Turner did with the Core Super Fights and have an event and sell tickets, and nobody had to sanction it. So that was the big drawing card for Denver. They had a big arena because these guys from, Art Davie from New York, he was already involved in a bunch of other, big events, concerts, and boxing. So what happened was they didn't have to have anybody okay this. Now, there was a lot of blowback when all of a sudden the newspapers found out about it. And so, first of all, they didn't know what it was. So they didn't know if they were going to have, guys who had competed in martial arts for a number of years that were professionals. They didn't know if they were going to have guys in there that were just like throw down bar fighters, bare knuckle. So there was a lot of blowback on that end, but then all of a sudden you have the event, and for the most part, the guys were professional fighters, had competed on any number of levels for any number of years in their particular discipline to compete against guys from other disciplines. But there was a good question. There were a lot of people that were protesting, hey, it's going to be bare knuckle, eye gouging, kicking people in the groin, biting. It was a throwdown for the way a lot of people described it as just mayhem and no rules, because that's how they build it. No rules, no time limits, no gloves, no tape. I mean, it was just man against man, mano a mano in the octagon, and that's the way it was built. And I think they sold 7,500 tickets here, Dave, and the reason that they sold it that many tickets was because I think people really were going to go there thinking somebody's going to get whacked.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's going to be a bloodbath. People are like, oh, it's like watching the car wreck when you're on I-25. You're like, oh, somebody got whacked there. Well, let's slow down and see. That's why. Yeah, that's why they bought the tickets originally.
Wow.
Well, that was really interesting to hear kind of what the thoughts were in the Denver area leading up to the show, because I know that, of course, I've read a lot and seen interviews with Art Davey and, of course, Horion Gracie. I know Horion, and so I've heard a lot of the different stories and things like that. But it's interesting that you got a chance to go to the hotel and like talk to a lot of these guys and get their bios and stuff. So what I wonder is, how did these guys seem when you were talking to them? Because nobody knew exactly what was going to happen. Did they seem scared? Did they seem excited? Did they seem like nervous? I mean, what was their frame of mind when you talked to these guys prior to the event?
Yeah, good question. I'll tell you, listen, my limited experience as a Muay Thai guy, I'd been around guys who were basically professional martial arts guys that did that for not a lot of money back in the day. So I saw guys work out and work their craft and how they worked, how they disciplined themselves and all the things they went through, just like your people here do. Mm-hmm. They want to get in shape. They want to, be able to protect themselves at some point if they get, ransacked. But going in there, I didn't have any kind of preconceived thoughts about guys, but as soon as I got in there, like I could tell Ken Shamrock was the real deal. Yeah. Like I knew that guy, never seen a video of him, kind of knew his name. And when I saw the way he worked out and, how his discipline of, Japanese shoot fighting, but he was working on his boxing techniques when I saw him. But he was also, had 3 or 4 guys he was sparring with that were shoot fighters as well, And so when I talked to him, I said, so, what's your goal for this particular matchup? And he said, look, I'm a ground guy. If I can get a guy down, ground and pound, that's my advantage. But I also have to be able to have some boxing skills to keep the guy off me to start with. I don't want to be paired up with another wrestler, shoot fighter, a guy who's great at ground technique, and have him get me down. So he was worried about that. That's why he was doing his boxing. And like Gordeau was just a massive man for a fighter. That
guy's an animal.
Oh,
that guy's an animal.
Yeah, and then I found out, he was the Dutch national champion for 8 years, and
yes.
That guy was he was lean, but he was all a 6'5" and probably 225, 230, in great shape. So he was sparring with 3 or 4. They kept throwing guys in at him. Like he'd do 2 minutes with a guy, and then he'd do another 2 minutes with another guy, and then he'd do 2 minutes with another fresh guy. And his technique was amazing, but he was just physically intimidating. Like I'm interviewing him like this, I'm all of maybe 5'8", and this guy just towered over me. I thought, okay, this guy's got a really good chance to win this thing. And then you had some of the other guys like Thule, who was the sumo wrestler. He was, I want to say he fought Gordeau in the first
round
ever fight.
The infamous tooth.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when I introduced him, Thule came in. He was about 400 pounds. This guy was not in shape. Maybe he was. Maybe he had, maybe he had.
He was in sumo shape. He was in sumo shape.
He was a big guy. I mean, but just like a block of kind of. He wasn't really muscular. He was just heavy. And when I saw Gordeau walk in after Thule got in the ring, I was like, this is going to be over in about 10 seconds. Because that Thule's going to walk in. He's going to probably try and get him down on the ground. And all Gordeau has to do is just kick him one time somewhere near his head, and he's going to go down. So that was kind of my thinking. And it actually happened. Thule tried to rush him. I remember missed him, fell down against the octagon was chain link fence.
I remember that.
And pads. And he tried to get up, and he turned, and boom, Gordeau just whacked him with a massive right foot. And I was sitting where the tooth landed. It went over the fence and landed. I was looking over there. I was like, "Is that his tooth?" and then there's just blood everywhere. The referee comes in, and he's asking their corner, "Hey, is he okay? Is he okay?" And the guy's trainer's looking at him. Nah, he's not okay. And then they stopped that fight. So I mean, that was over in 26 seconds. And actually, I want to say the crowd kind of booed.
Well, we were all expecting more out
competition,
of that.
Right?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, but I mean, not knowing what we were even watching, really.
Right.
I remember sitting there and I remember when they walked into the ring and it was just like, what? We were all just on the edge of our seats, like this is gonna be war right here. This is gonna be But
the one guy I thought that would do really well that didn't was Patrick Smith. I don't know if you remember him, Dave.
Oh yeah.
So he was in the
local
course.
Guy.
Yeah, he was in the course super fights. So I knew him. Oh. And there was one of the course super fights where I want to say he went after somebody in the crowd after the fight. Somebody was taunting him. And I'm like, well, that's not the guy you want to taunt, man. He was a badass. He was older than the other guys. He was in maybe his early 30s. He had been fighting for a long time in Denver. I knew who he was, and I knew that he had a lot of skill. But he was a little bit older. But he was a true karate, and he was also a really good boxer. So he was, to me, like the mixed martial arts guy, if that was the name for a guy, because he had good ground skills, not great, but he also could keep guys at bay. I mean, he'd throw his jabs out there and keep guys at a distance and not allow them to get inside. So I thought when I watched him spar, and he was working on his wrestling techniques and his boxing techniques and kickboxing at the same time, I thought, okay, this guy's, I've seen him before. I don't know who he's going to be paired against, but I thought he had a really kind of solid shot at, taking home the 50 grand. And at the time, 50 grand was like unfathomable for a payday.
Huge.
That was huge.
Huge in that day.
Yeah.
I mean, for anything.
I mean, boxers were getting millions, but to have a one-time, prize package of $50,000 winner take all. That was, I thought, okay, we're going to get some really, really good martial arts guys in this thing.
Do you know how they paired them up back then?
Do I know?
Yeah. How did they pair them up? Or was it just throw them into a hat?
That's interesting. They never told me. I just, I know this for a fact because I did talk to Art Davey. Art Davey sent out a promo packet to all the top martial arts guys in the world. Every one of them got a packet about what they wanted to do with this and their vision. They didn't get calls from anybody. They only had 10 guys that responded. They wanted to originally have 16 guys and do the just like the Final Four or any other tournament, 16 down to 8, down to 4, down to 2, down to 1. But they only were able to they got 10 guys, and 2 of them didn't pass their physicals. And so they had 8 guys.
Rich, let me ask you a quick question if I could. I know that I'd seen an interview with Horion and Art Davey, and they said the only thing that they had to show people prior to this were like old fights from Brazil, or like, the Gracie in action. There's a Gracie in action tape that Horion had put together that showed a lot of the no holds barred fighting from Brazil, or, from his academy there in Torrance, California. Did you get a chance to see any of that prior to the event, to understand kind of what you were about, to see? Had you seen anything like that at all?
I hadn't seen anything till I went in Gracie's, it was funny. The workout rooms were ballrooms at a hotel. So, if you've got a giant ballroom, they just had all the doors sectioned off. So I just went from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And then there was another floor that had another 4 rooms. Like I said, the rooms were about half the size of your gym here, Kenny. But they had videos running on a television screen, the Gracies. And they were always kind of walking over there, and, and they were pointing, and they were talking a language that I didn't understand, but they were pointing at things on the video, different techniques, and showing, Hoist, hey, here's, like this. They were pointing this, where this guy moved, and that. That's the first time I ever saw any of the videos. But I saw it in action, like when they were working out. They had at least 6 to 8 Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys in the room that were constantly going on the mat with Hoist and watching him work out. And it was really impressive to watch, because I'd seen a few jiu-jitsu guys, but not at that level. These guys were really good and really talented, and it was interesting to watch that particular discipline.
Wow. So you announced, and you traveled with them for the next, 9? After the one here in Denver, but then they also did.
The second one was in Denver.
That's right, at the Mammoth, yeah.
And it's funny because they went I think what happened was, because McNichols Arena sat 16,000, 17,000 people, it was half full. So Zane, being the WrestleMania guy, and Barry being the concert guy, were smart enough to take everybody from the top levels and bring them all down to the first level.
Right.
At McNichols Arena to make it. Now, if you watch the video, it looks like, oh, this is sold out, man. There's 1 million people here, and they had all the seats filled around the octagon, but it really wasn't. Most of the seats in the upper level were empty.
Yeah, it was pretty dead.
Maybe
up there,
at least half the seats in the suite level is what they called it, kind of, but it was real small, the suite level then at McNichols, and I would say most of the lower level. But I did travel. So the second one was that they said, hey, let's make this smaller and make it look like, oh, people are just hanging from the rafters.
Right.
So that's when they went to Mammoth, where the core super fights were. And that was real comfortable for me, although it was an armpit. This place was, I'm not kidding you. It was on East Colfax, crappy section, Capitol Hill. This is old Capitol Hill, where there were a lot of winos and homeless people, and you feel sorry for the neighborhood. But this isn't a place where you show up in a coat and tie and walk in and get out of your Mercedes and go. Yeah,
still kind of rough.
Yeah, it's still kind of a rough area, but it's definitely a lot better than it was. But this building was just a crap hole.
Yeah,
it was stinky and dirty, and they had
dingy.
Yeah, they had 2 dressing rooms downstairs. That was it. Most of it was like, I remember old boxes sitting downstairs, like they were selling merchandise and stuff. And the actual arena, the event center, was nothing. It was there was an area up top that's still there. If you walk into the Fillmore, there's an upper level because it's all concrete. They renovated it, but it was just like a level about 10 feet above where they had the ring, and they put folding chairs up there. And then they put folding chairs all around the ring and a few of those stands like you'd see at a high school football game, the metal stands. They like brought those in, and they made it look like, oh, there's 10,000 people in there. Well, that place only holds 1,500. So they sold out quick.
Wow.
But they made it look on television, if you watch the video, like, oh my God.
Like it was larger than life.
Huge. But they didn't care because they were just going for the pay-per-view. So UFC 1 apparently, from what I've read, sold about 90,000 pay-per-views, which was unheard of.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 1999, I think it was, and they sold 80 or 90,000. So their purse on that broadcast, that pay-per-view, was over $1.5 million. And that's when Art Davie and Horian knew, okay, we could put this in the back of
we got something.
Ken Solomon's yard, and we're gonna sell 125,000 pay-per-views. And that's what they did. So then they took it on the road. And I went to, listen, it's been a while since I've thought about this, but they did one in Detroit because my brother and sister came. My sister laughed. She was like, ugh. She hated when me and my brother fought in the living room, let alone some guy kicking somebody's teeth out. But we went to Puerto Rico. That was great. Oh man, I stayed at the Sands.
I heard that stadium was. I heard that stadium and those fans were nuts.
Oh, rabid. Yeah. Oh man, Puerto Rico was as crazy an atmosphere as I've ever seen, ever. And
Puerto Rico itself is a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the Puerto Rican population was crazy about the UFC and mixed martial arts. These guys, when they went out, like I remember going out with, what did I go out with? I can't remember. But we went into one of the bars in there, and it was just like Muhammad Ali had walked into the bar. I mean, the whole place just stopped. And everywhere we went, man, they were comping our food and comping our drinks. And we stayed at, for the first time, really, I mean, I was staying in crap holes because, they're putting us up in these $30 a night rooms when I went on the road to start with. I'm like, hey, you guys are making millions of dollars here. At least I could do is get a bathroom in my room kind of thing. And,
why am I sharing a room?
Why am I going out to the outhouse? And the whatever that stadium was, it wasn't very big. I mean, it felt like the people were sitting right on top of you because these stands just went straight up. It was almost like, like a bull riding kind of arena where, they have people just looking straight down on you so they get all the action. And it was, man, those fans were just rabid.
Yeah.
Rabid.
Well, with an atmosphere like that, the tension in there must have been.
Oh, yeah.
And stress and the excitement. Oh my gosh.
Oh, just incredible. And the way they did the Semaphore Entertainment was the group that Art Davie owned.
Bob Meyerowitz.
Yeah, Bob Meyerowitz. That's it. Yep. They did. This guy's great. I know. Filling in all the dead spots in my brain. Way to go, Dave. The way they did it on television was better than boxing because they had lights and they had smoke, the
smoke
fake,
machines,
the fog machines, and they had, boxing. You came in with your entourage, and they always show the fighter and stuff, and it was, they had their own music and stuff. These guys had the lights and the fog machines. And the music.
There's a cross between WWF
and
boxing.
Yeah. And I'll tell you where that started was, to me, at least in Denver, was Zane Breslov. And Zane's no longer on the planet. He was one of my favorite people, passed away a number of years ago. And I actually did one of his World Wrestling events here in Denver. He had this first one was at the Silverdome. But his thing, I remember him saying, man, he kept telling Art and Bob, you got to make this look like it's the greatest event ever. Like, you got to have the girls, the ring girls, and you got to have the smoke, and you got to have the lights, and you got to have the sound, and it's got to draw people in. Like, people on TV, like when we do the World Wrestling Federation, man, those guys are gods. You got to make these guys gods. And that was his thing. I mean, the way he explained it, and they did it, man. They took it like to a different level.
Well, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
Bottom line,
Yep.
get down to it. Better the entertainment.
Are you not entertained? Are we not entertained? Gladiator. But yeah, I went to a lot of great places. But one of the things I remember, I want to say it was Puerto Rico, was Tank Abbott. Remember him? He was there in the audience, and he kept coming down to the octagon, kind of like Clubber Lang did in the Rocky movie, saying, "I got you. I own you. You're dead meat. You're nothing. I'm the number one ranked contender, and you need to, show me the money and give me a shot." And and Burgess Meredith's like, you don't want any part of that guy. Tank Abbott was tooting his own horn. He was saying to all the guys that were on the fight card, "I'll kick your ass. I'm better than you." And finally, security had to take him and his girlfriend out.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
a good story. That's a good inside story there.
Yeah. I mean, it was like he personally bought a ticket, went down there to make sure that he got on camera, and he was an intimidating looking guy as well. He had that big black goatee, and he was a big deal. Like, he was strong. You could tell he was a fighter in some capacity. I didn't know what he was, but I was like, I don't want to mess with that guy. Where's security? Don't kill the G-man. I'm just the messenger here. I'm just introducing guys.
I'm the guy on the mic.
Yeah. Don't kill the guy in the mic.
God.
This is really funny because I didn't run into you, but I remember running into a couple of the Denver Nuggets. Were just there working out, and in the arena.
Yep.
And they're like, because I covered the team, and they're like, "What's going on, G-man?" And I'm like, "Well, it's this ultimate fighting, martial arts." And they're like, "Oh, great, okay, yeah, all right, good to see you." They didn't care.
Yeah.
But it's funny to see the interactions of people and how many people were there. That you talk to 800,000 people, they're going to say they were there. Oh, I was at the first UFC, but no, there were 7,500 people there.
Yeah,
way more people saw it on TV.
I was like, wait, that's chain link. Aren't they going to get they could get caught in that? I remember thinking fingers are going to get chopped off in that.
Yeah,
we're going to get.
Oh, it was. They actually had that set up pretty well. It was padded, and the chain link was powder coated black. It was pretty sturdy. I watched him set the ring up. That was one of the things I wanted to see was, what's this going to look like? The octagon,
Yeah.
But they had it set up really well.
Gee, I want to go back a little bit in your history. And first, I want to tell how we met, because I remember it was Lewis and Flora. I was in the shower one day. And
were we in there with you?
No,
I don't remember that part.
You were on the radio. I'm
Thank God,
to you guys.
Thank God they didn't make me go in there and hey,
meet this guy.
See if Rocky's really a guy.
That was always
could be a woman
question.
in there. Pretty nimble for a guy.
Yeah, we'll go into that later. So I was in the shower listening to you guys one morning, and you guys were talking about the Indy 500.
Oh, yeah.
Which was which was coming to town. Yeah. And you said, I don't know whose
was
idea
that
was.
weekend. It was that weekend. Yeah,
okay.
I remember.
Yeah. So leading up to that, you guys wanted to do the Undy 500. And here I was young 20s and I thought, you know what? I'm going to go down there. I'm going to enter this. I jumped out of the shower,
ran down
there, walked in. I'm like, hey, I'm here for this. And great. Come grab a number or whatever. There was like 7 or 10 of us or something that were going to race. You guys wanted us to race around the block.
Yeah.
In our underwear.
In Cheeseman Park.
Yeah.
So Dave, I don't know if you know the history of it was the Indy 500 weekend on that Friday, and So we came up with this idea. Everybody just would throw ideas, and so I think Floorwax said, hey, let's do the Undie 500 and make people run like 500 yards in their underwear. And so Cheeseman Park in Denver is, how do you describe it? It's,
right downtown.
Yeah.
And
but anyway, there's all these tall buildings around the park.
Yep.
And Floorwax thought it would be funny for people to see guys running around in their underwear, or girls. We had a couple of girls in there too.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so anyway, hey, if you want to come down, I think would they pay you $500? You win the Undie 500.
Yeah, it was no, it was
maybe
like $100 or something.
$100 and all the beer you can drink.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of how we did things back in the old days of radio.
I came in second,
I got a seat. Here's a case of Coors Light. Congratulations. But anyway, so 7, 8, 10 people showed up, and Ken was one of them. And you won, man. You were fast.
No, I thought you.
Oh, you got. I thought you won.
I think I took.
I think you got tripped at the goal at the finish line.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we had one girl. She came down in her panties and bra. We're like, she's the winner. We don't even have to run this thing. What's your phone number, honey?
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that's the kind of crazy stunts our morning show would do. We did tons of stunts.
So fun. I was so hooked on that morning show. And then the other thing another thing adding to the list of things that you're famous for, the billboard.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
You ever see that video, Dave?
I've known about that for years. That was national news.
Yeah,
that was national news. Yeah.
Yeah, and that came about as a bet between the radio station in San Diego and our station. With that week, the Broncos were kind of in a tailspin. Now, they had gone to the Super Bowl in '89. So in '90, everybody thought, oh, they're going to the Super Bowl again. I mean, you got great defense. You got John Elway. You're loaded. But they started out really slow. They started losing games. And then we made a bet with the San Diego radio station, hey, if we lose, the Broncos, then I'm going to do my sports from on top of one of our billboards. We had these new billboards around town promoting the Fox, is where I worked back then. And then there was a guy in San Diego, a white guy with a huge fro. I mean, the biggest fro I've ever seen. And if the Chargers lost, he was going to shave his fro. And so, of course, the Broncos lose. So I went up on the billboard, and then like a couple of the Rocky Mountain News covered it, and the Denver Post covered it, and some television station came out and said, oh, this is pretty cool. You're doing your sports up there. So then my boss at the time, Jack Evans, said, hey, man, what do you think about living on that board until they win? And I was like, oh, man, God,
how would that
30 feet up. There's two pieces of wood that run, 30 feet long. I'm like, well, you want me to just sit up there until Sunday? And he's like, yeah, we'll get you a chair. You can sit up there. We'll ask the sign company, and we already got the waivers. So I had to wear this belt. It was actually like a pants belt, a little thicker, but it had a tether on it. There was a rope with a clip, and there was this wire that ran along the length of the billboard, and they made me clip that in case I fell off, so I wouldn't, fall all the way. I'd just be hanging there till somebody came and rescued me, because the rope was like 10 feet long and the 30 feet up. So if I fell off, I'd be, dangling around. But they brought me a chair, and then I had what else did I have? I brought a golf club because I was into golf, so I could practice my golf swing. You ever practice a golf swing up against the wall? It's really good for you. And I had a chair, and I had this big, giant brick cell phone, so I could call the station and do my sports. So I literally did that for the first week, and then they lost to the Bears in overtime, and I'm like, oh, man. I got to stay up here another week, because I said I'll stay up here until they win. And it ended up being 33 days.
33 days.
But Bob Costas interviewed me, and he called me a sniveling wimp because I was complaining about my living conditions. But
by the way, I have a thing against Bob Costas. So yeah, he didn't. Yeah, he and I first met my first year, and it was He didn't have anything good to say about me.
Oh,
either, so.
well, that's too bad because you're like the best in the business of any mascot ever.
Well,
mascot Hall of Fame.
Maybe that was it that pushed my buttons enough to prove him wrong.
So, yeah, that turned into like huge for my career and, basically, catapulted, gave me a name and being on Costas' show on television every week. And then he would come on the radio show every week and make fun of me. So that was great.
I didn't know it went that.
Oh,
I didn't,
yeah. What happened was I'll just tell you the brief story. There's a video that Rick Riley did a story on ESPN for the 30th anniversary of the billboard. Was it 25 or 30? No, it was 25th anniversary.
25th.
So
that's what I read.
It's been, 5 years ago or 7 years ago. Anyway, he came out and did a story that they ran before the Monday Night Football game when they played the Bengals. He's like, I'm going to do a feature on you. And he kind of rolled in all the tape and stuff like that they had archived and stuff like that. But so after they lost to the Bears, the next game was Thanksgiving Day in Detroit. And I'm from Detroit. And I'm thinking, the Broncos are going to kill the Lions. They suck this year. And they go in and Thursday and just lay an egg. They lost 40-30 or 40-20. So now I'm on there on a Thursday. The next game is not this Sunday. It's it's like 10 days away.
Oh my gosh.
So
brutal.
I call my body. I go, man, I'm freezing every night. I'm sleeping in a sleeping bag, and my head's freezing. I got no food. You guys got to bring me some food and water and stuff. Come on, start taking care of a guy. And then so they said, hey, we'll get you a tarp and we'll get you a space heater and all this stuff. But anyway, that night or that afternoon, Bob Costas' assistant called and said, hey, Bob Costas wants to interview. And I thought it was one of my buddies pranking me. I'll go, hey, that's funny. Hey, great. F you. Click. And then the guy called again and goes, hey, don't hang up. No, we're sending a camera crew out there because Costas wants to have you on the post-game show. So just be there. I'm like, well, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm right here, bro. See me up on the board? So the guy comes out. He sets up his camera, and he climbs up the ladder, gives me a mic. I put the lavalier mic on, and I'm standing up there, miserable because I know I got to spend another 10 days up there. And Costas just rips on me for 10 minutes. What kind of provisions you have up there, Rich? I got some beer and some pop, and I got my cell phone, and man, I'll tell you, I'm tired. I just want to go home. Oh, you sniveling wimp! As soon as he said that, he called me a sniveling wimp. Boom! It just exploded. And this is before the internet. Got to remember, if there was internet at the time, it would have been huge.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then he started coming on our show every week on the Fox, and then he had me on every time they lost. Let's check in with Rich Goins in Denver. He's got to be upset. I'm like, I'm not upset. I'm in a coma, bro. I haven't slept in 3 weeks. I'm freezing. I'm starving. I got pneumonia.
Man, that was the
I got
biggest
diarrhea.
thing, though. That was the biggest thing, though, for this town.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Man, I remember just the whole town was buzzed because of this.
But you know what's fun? But
driving by.
I'll tell you this, and Dave will appreciate this. I still get people. I get more people that walk up to me and ask me about the UFC than the billboard thing in Denver.
That's awesome.
And I'm telling you, it's crazy. People are like, oh, I was watching UFC 1 and 2 on the video with my kid the other night. That was you doing the ring announce. I'm like, yeah. They're like, man, that's amazing.
Let me jump in. I got to ask this question. Could you ever have envisioned back then the UFC would be where it is today?
No. No.
So you didn't have any inkling when you were there. Let's say UFC 1 and 2, 3 and 4. All right, let's just say 1 through 4.
Yeah.
At any point in time, you go, this is going to be the biggest thing ever.
No.
You never.
And I'll tell you why. Because they didn't implement weight classes and disciplines and time limits and padded gloves or anything. So I thought they're not going to be able to take this anywhere where they can get it sanctioned. That's why they went to Puerto Rico, and they went to Savannah, Georgia, that didn't have a boxing commission. They went to, they got further down, they went to Detroit, but they had to go in front of the boxing commission and get it. I think that was the first city that actually sanctioned it.
Yeah,
once they
and
saw
interesting
it.
about that, Michigan sanctioned it, but they couldn't use closed fists. They had to use open hands.
Right. Yes.
But none of
the guys did. It'd be like a slap boxing contest, like it'd be like Kenny slapping me around. I'd lose.
Right.
Guy's got the quickest hands in mascot history. Well, you see him at the games,
Pause.
Oh, yeah.
They're paws.
half quarters over the head. The guy's got great hands. But anyway, I just to get back to, did I ever think it would be that big? No way, because I saw. What happened was, if you remember some of the Gracie fights, people were actually bored out of their mind because it took him 10, 12, 15 minutes sometimes, it felt like, to finally get a guy into submission. So mostly it looked like two guys laying on the ground, drunk, fighting over an empty beer or a full beer, and then there wasn't any excitement. So it was. They finally figured out, Gracie's dad and Art Davey, I'm sure, and Bob, that hey, we better do something here because Gracie's going to win them all because he's a submission guy, and they already proved that that's the ultimate discipline. But the other thing is, you better start getting some excitement in this thing, like real action. So that's when they went to 5-minute rounds, gloves, and
they also break them up too if they're just
but they also they also pitted guys that were the same discipline against each other to start with, and then it kind of went like this, and then finally in the finals we'll get a kickboxer against a jiu-jitsu guy or a Muay Thai guy and some sort of other discipline that would be exciting.
Right.
They had to go to the time limits. I thought that when I was sitting the first time I sat down and saw Gracie, I'm like, man, does this guy take this much time to get rid of guys all the time? Because it's literally 5 minutes of rolling around or 7 minutes, and then finally the guy taps out because he just can't breathe anymore. That's not exciting for the general public.
Right.
But no, I mean, if I had known, I would have invested in the company. Holy crap! Because they sold that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what did Davey and Gracie sell? They sold that for how much?
Well, at the time,
was it 20 million?
Something like that. Yeah. SEG and Bob Meyerowitz bought it from Art Davey,
right?
And Wow Promotions.
Right.
And WOW Promotions. And that was probably, 96, I think is when that happened, 95, 96. Late 95, early 96, I believe. And but then, if you remember, it became outlawed in many states.
Right.
And then pay-per-view stopped showing it. You could only see it on satellite. You had to have a satellite to see it.
I remember that.
And so the UFC almost died. It almost died off right around UFC 22, 23, 24, it almost died. It was almost gone. And that's when Dana White and the Fertittas came in and bought a debt-ridden show, an event. So,
now it's, worth $6 billion or whatever it's worth. Now, see, honestly,
unbelievable.
Because I was always looking to throw some money somewhere. It's not like I had a ton of money, but I'd be like, I'd throw some money at this if I, thought it was pretty cool.
Gee, what are you doing now, man? You're all into.
So I was working at the Mountain.
Yeah.
Not there anymore, but I have a golf business, so I'm the membership director at a club like 5 minutes from here. So I sell golf memberships, and I tell people I'm a professional golfer because I sell golf memberships. I play golf every day, but I don't compete because if I did, I'd get beat by 20 shots a round with those guys. But no, I have a good life. I travel a little bit, got a girlfriend that's still with me after 8 years. So people think she's blind, as you can see. or she had cataract surgery when she met me. I said, no, she just liked my voice. That's it. She doesn't like me for any other
Silky,
reason
smooth
other than
tones
free
of-
concert tickets and my voice. Well, that's what I'm doing, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, you guys got it going on here. I like the gym. This is really cool, Dave.
It's
Yeah.
got
And
beautiful.
Kenny, you guys.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of takes me back. Like, seriously, I haven't been in a gym for. Well, I mean, not a
martial arts
arts
gym.
gym since. Man, it had to be like late '80s. I might have to just
Well,
come in,
dude, you
Kenny.
look fit. You
Well,
look like-
thanks.
I mean,
I'm an old
come on.
guy.
Shoot.
But hey,
Doing something right.
You know, HGH. No, I don't do that. Don't recommend HGH. 12-ounce curl guy, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, so I still like watching the Nuggets and the Avalanche and the Broncos and and sometimes the Rockies. Although they're doing really well this year. Yeah. So I'm still into sports. You know, I've always been into sports. My brother has a couple of sons that play college football, so I go back to Michigan and watch them. Junior, it's like Division III Albion College. So I got two nephews up there.
You know, I have a son out there.
Where?
In Detroit.
Oh, wow.
He is Hooper for the Pistons.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Dude. Wow.
Yeah.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Dude, you're just, you're like Bill Walsh in coaching. You just spawned all these, mascots everywhere in the planet.
Yeah.
Wow, that is great. They're all making a living.
Yeah. Well, they're
cool,
they're
buddy.
next level. Good. Taking what I've taught them and taking them to the next level.
Well, but what you guys do with your martial arts studios is I got a lot of admiration for you and for you, Dave, and anybody that does that, because I think you give people an outlet to channel their aggressions and have a discipline to solve things and have a peace of mind. That's what for me, that's what I really got when I was doing the Muay Thai. Was I like when I left there, I felt like, okay, I don't have to fight the world. I just had a kind of a peaceful thing about me that was like, okay, I can handle anything that comes my way. If I can handle, here, I'll tell you a quick story. This is funny. The guy that owned the martial arts studio that I went to, there was about 10 of us every Tuesday and Thursday. So after about 4 weeks or 5 weeks, the guy goes, okay, you guys are getting pretty proficient. I'm going to put you in there with my son, who's a black belt. I go, I'm not getting in any ring with any black belts. If that's part of the graduation process, I'm out. I'm going to another martial arts studio. Oh, don't worry. We just want to kind of test your skill level right now. You've done, some decent work, and we want to, instead of just kicking on a bag, punching on a bag, we want to get you in there with some live action. I'm like, well, put me up against that guy. The guy in my class, I know I can kick his ass. I've seen his punching power. He's got nothing. So, no. You got to go in there with don't worry. My son will take it easy on you. So we get in and, ding, ding. We start moving around the ring and I'm, kind of doing this. He's like, keep your right hand up. Keep your right hand up. Okay. And all of a sudden I just snapped off a punch and hit him right in the face. He wasn't expecting it. He didn't go down. He just, it shocked him. And I went, uh-oh. I'm like, right. How quick can I get out of this ring? And I went to the left, and then I started moving around to the right, and I tried to get in the corner, and he kicked me so hard right here, like in the kidney. I just went down like a sack of potatoes. That's all I remember is the worst pain I've ever felt in my body. And I called it the seal hit because I sounded like a seal. I was like, and I had to crawl out of the ring. I couldn't even go through the ropes. I crawled out. They gathered me down. I crawled to the locker room, and I turned the shower on. I was able to stand up, and I turned the shower on, and I turned up the hot water, and I just sat in there for like 10 minutes. And the owner comes in, hey, how you doing? I'm like, dude, I need a new kidney. You see what your kid did? Well, you shouldn't have punched him. I'm like, wasn't that what we're in there for?
You shouldn't have punched
him. You told me. You're like, no, you should have punched him like that. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? They're like, feather him a little bit, touch his nose. You told me to go in there, and I said, I'm done. That's the end of my Muay Thai career. Thank you. I'm undefeated. Well, actually, I'm 0-1. That's good enough.
Yeah, stay right there.
But I do love the disciplines, man. I think you guys do a great job.
Well, appreciate that.
Giving people the opportunity.
One of the reasons why I got into a studio gym like this and owning this is because I see it change people's lives. And that's, I mean, it really is for so many different reasons and for so many different goals. People come in here and it ends up, they end up a different person when they walk out, or in 6 months, or they're either smaller, they've lost some weight, or they're walking out with their head straight, or all of the above. So it's really been a blessing for us.
Oh, by the way, Dave, here, look, I brought these.
All right, I'm gonna FaceTime you here. All right. Okay.
Dave, check this out. I just wanted you to see these. I love it. That's UFC 1. That is unbelievable. And hold on.
I want to screenshot that. Send it to my buddy.
There's 2.
Wow, that's so awesome.
Thanks. And then I got there's 3.
That's awesome.
So Dave, here's what I'm going to do. I got 2 UFC 1s. I'm going to have Kenny send you one of them.
Oh man, you don't have to do that.
No, I'm going to give you the one that has my sticker on the back that they made, that was at the patch on my coat when I was in the ring.
Rich, this is unbelievable, man. That is.
Well, I could send you the one that says Rich Goins on it, but then everybody would be like, but this, I taped the, my jacket pass on there because I had that. They didn't want me to wear the lanyard, so they stuck me with, like, you can't, I guarantee you that's the only one of those in the world, that sticky pass.
Dude, that is unbelievable.
There might be a few of these UFC 1s around that somebody might have saved, because I got 2 of them, but I'm going to keep the one with my name on it. But I'm going to give this one to Kenny and have him send you that one with the sticky on the back. How's that sound?
Rich, man. Dude, that's unbelievable, man.
Well, when you come to Denver, we'll all go out to dinner. We'll put it on your tab. How's that sound?
Hey, sounds great. Hey, well worth it. Done.
Listen, we're not going to Chuck E. Cheese either. It's going to be a nice steak dinner somewhere, but that'll be fun to hang out with you.
That is so badass. Let me tell you, man, how cool that is. I mean, like I talked about earlier, a lot of people don't understand, but, man, there'll never be times like that ever again, where a sport is emerging, brand new, and just blowing up out of nowhere. So, man, that's extra special, really special.
Oh, you're welcome. You're a good guy. I can tell you're a big fan, so my pleasure, buddy. Dave looks like a badass, by the way, with his hat turned backwards.
Oh, yeah. No, he is.
I wouldn't with that guy.
No.
Look at him.
No, I wouldn't either.
There you go.
He trained with some of the best.
Wow, that's cool, man.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you guys are into it, keeping the mixed martial arts alive. That's great. Congratulations.
Rich, I'll tell you something real quick, too, and you'll appreciate this because you first laid eyes on this guy when he first came out. Dan Severn fought in UFC 4.
Oh, Severn, yeah.
So Severn was actually my first professional fight in '99. So my very first professional fight, I used to fight professionally. My very first professional fight was against Severn in '99.
Wow.
Yep.
How'd you do?
I got to fight one of my heroes, man, for my first professional fight.
Wow.
How'd you do?
I lost. I did well, though. We went for about 11 minutes. Went a long time. We had a long fight.
I was hoping to fight my childhood idol, Marilyn Monroe, but she wouldn't come out of retirement. Yeah. I would have won that. I would have pinned her. I would have pinned her a couple of times.
My childhood hero was San Diego Chicken, so that would have been a good one.
I love the San Diego Chicken.
I'm trying to find him.
Classic.
I'm trying to find him. I want him on this podcast. My other podcast, Between the Fur.
Oh, my God, that would be
my other podcast is called Between the Fur. So you'll have to check that one out, too.
I might have to come back for that one.
Yeah.
Bring a few ex-girlfriends.
Yeah. It's
the fur's flying.
Yeah, no, I'm sturdy like a Millie Rocket. young Andy Miller knockers, money in my pocket. Don't call me a money pocket, engine get to rocket. It sound like a thunder rocket, yeah. I still love my baby even when it's toxic. Crazy like she Britney, but no, she don't shade the noggin.